All right, this is Patrick Rogers, and today we have the privilege to have Matthew Davis on the show. And Matt is the managing attorney of Davis Business Law. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Hey, thank you. I am thrilled to be here. And yeah, let's talk shop and see if we can't just, maybe we have some wisdom between the two of us.
There you go. Probably more on your end, but that's all good. So a little bit about Matt. He's an attorney, heavy metal guitarist. So we're gonna have to dig into that a little bit. I got to learn a little bit more there. And entrepreneur that led his solely owned firm, Davis Business Law, through over 1,000% growth over 6 years. Very impressive, making it one of very rare law firms ever to make the Inc. 5000 list. So congrats on that. The firm currently has 8 offices from Austin to Kansas City with over 25 years of experience helping business leaders with their legal and entrepreneurial matters. Davis now teaches them how to deal with their vulnerabilities so they can capitalize on their opportunities through his firm's proprietary, strong, protected business system. Davis lives in Enid, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yep, where his family has lived for 6 generations and holds degrees from the University of Oklahoma, Cornell University, and Cornell College. So very impressive. I can't wait to dig into your journey and that 1,000% expansion, Matt. Before we do, though, what's one interesting fact about yourself that not many people know?
Wow. I don't know that there is one. I think I'm kind of boring, really, but I do like to talk about guitars. So that's kind of fun. I've actually quit buying guitars, and my wife is really happy about that.
I bet she is.
Yeah, and I'm like a guitar magnet. I find fantastic guitars for nothing. I don't know why. That's maybe an interesting fact. I've
That
got like
is.
$1,000 Telecaster right over here that
Wow.
I found at the pawn shop for $200, and I didn't
No
know what it
way.
was. Yeah, and yeah, that's all the time.
And it's
So,
not your fault. I mean, you have to grab it. You can't let it sit there. It's
yeah, it's
wouldn't be
like
right.
I'm like a guitar orphanage.
Yes,
So,
right.
uh,
uh, so heavy metal guitarist, did you play in well, first of all, what kind of, I mean, I know what heavy metal is, but is there any specific, like, are you just doing cover? Do you have your own
No,
band?
we've started a new band, and this was kind of my son's idea. We played at a firm retreat. We had a good cover band play, and then my buddies and I got out and we rolled down our banner that said "Geriatric Steel," right? And my son goes, "Why don't you start writing heavy metal songs for like middle age and beyond?"
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, there's so much more to write about. I mean, these songs write themselves, like
sure.
from the kitchen to the bathroom, left on the lights. Or we've got one called Teenage Daughter. And you know that song. And
I love it. I love it.
it's so fun. And we spent a little time in the studio this summer, and our bass player has some health problems. That's what happens when you
From the gym to the walker. No.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I'm 55. He was older, and he's 70, was 72. So we're auditioning some new bass players right now, and
Okay.
we'll go back into the studio, probably out in LA. My one of my old friends, actually, I used to prosecute this kid, and he
Uh-huh.
owes me some favors.
Okay.
And he's running Dave Grohl's studio out in.
What?
Yeah,
No
yeah,
way. Get a little
yeah.
Foo Fighter action in there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, so Wiley, if you're listening, I'm calling in that favor for when I went easy on you when you were a long-haired kid. So
That's right. And your buddy Patrick wants to come along, especially if you get to meet Dave.
yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. So
Cool. So tell us about your company. Let's start there and then we'll get into your journey.
yeah, so I had a midlife crisis and started a law firm, which is
Uh-huh.
was probably pretty productive. I was just practicing law by myself, kind
Yeah.
of sitting around my house because I had 5 kids and I wasn't sitting; I was actually working. And I just went out, called my old paralegal, said, let's go start a law firm. And we went out and bought this, old 1915 house and started filling it full of paralegals and attorneys and, now customer service reps. And so we're up to about, well, I guess that bio was a little old. I think that was 8 years ago. And we're up
Hmm.
to, about 30 employees. And
Oh well.
spread out, and we just spread out, and we'll go plant an office and let it grow.
Very nice. Awesome. Just plant a new one and let it grow.
Yeah, well, it's not that easy. There's a lot of truth.
That's what.
There's a lot of days where you just feel like, how could I be so stupid, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a constant feeling, and you just have to get used to that because you got to go try things, and you're going to make some mistakes, and the trick is to learn from those lessons.
So you started with one office and then you just kept expanding.
Yeah.
Have you got it pretty much down to a science now, or and are you going to keep expanding, opening up more offices?
Yeah, that's our plan. And you know, as far as opening more offices, we're got a couple next year that we'll do in Texas, and probably go over into Arkansas. Just we like to hit base hits, and those are geographically easy for us to get to. Um, and you know, down to a science. Every time you think you have it down to a science, something goes awry,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. It's
So
an art, more of an
yeah,
art. Yeah, yeah.
but I'll tell you, the answer is yes. We're a lot better than we used to be, and you know, sometimes we get lucky, and then you know, so Kansas City just worked like a charm for us. Dallas has been a harder market for us for just you know reasons we finally figured out, and I spent a lot of time last week writing down some new checklists.
Okay. Yeah. More systematizing it, processizing it.
Well, and you know, for look, we're a professional services firm,
Hmm.
and professional services firms are a weird animal
Mm.
because you know your revenue producers are the professionals, and guess what? They're kind of a quirky bunch of humans, and learning how to manage and to lead and to cajole and every now and again, you know, compel them to do something. You know, they're pretty independent minded bunch, and that's an art. And so it's it's a challenge, boy. It's been hard, but it's been fun.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, I know in our pre-talk, one of the things you were mentioning when we asked what's some of your keys to success was really understanding your foundations and know how to maintain them. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, you know, and you know, we could just take it back to a couple things there. You know, one would be just understanding your culture
Mm.
and and how your culture makes you different from your competition. You know, I live in from the law firm perspective, we are constantly selling oranges in a market where everybody else is selling apples.
Hmm.
Okay, what I mean by that is um, everybody else, all the other law firms are, you know, bill 8 hours or bill 10 hours a day.
Hmm.
And we're six, bill 6 hours a day. And we are looking for a really different type of person in our law firm. And it sets us apart.
Type of client or type of attorney?
Type of attorney. So, you know, it's like our attorney. So Dixie bills 6 hours a day, goes home. She came out of a law firm that they wanted her to bill 9.5 hours a day.
So
You
just
know,
very stressful, very
yeah.
pounding the pavement.
And at that point, you don't have a life.
No, no, you don't.
And ultimately, if you get down to it, what I run uh, is an attorney lifestyle company, if you
Hmm.
want to think of it that way, because I give them a great life. We take care of the marketing, we take care of the finance, we take care of all the HR stuff, and and the client intake. And what that does is it just gives them a better life. And then guess what? They take great care of our clients because they're not stressed out, they're happy, and that's you know, it's that sort of foundation, understanding, knowing who you are, and
Yeah,
just being real
yeah.
clear. We just walked away from a guy in Dallas. You know, our comp was really competitive at 6 billable hours a day, and he wanted to work 8. And I'm like, you know, look, you'll make almost as much working for us, but I'm not going to guarantee you 8 because I just don't want you working that hard because it's not good for our clients. And, you know, some of our attorneys do on occasion and they get comped, and I'm like, we don't have a values connection here. So, you know,
It's very interesting. A lot of people don't have, a lot of CEOs, a lot of managing attorneys don't have the emotional intelligence or the EQ to really see and get what you're saying. It takes it's a whole new paradigm. It's a paradigm shift is what it is. And I respect that and I appreciate that. That's
you know,
fantastic to hear.
could we cut that and you give that to my wife about me having
Yeah.
emotional
Let me
intelligence?
see. Let's see. We're about 7 minutes in. Okay, got it recorded. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, because no, well, you know, I'm pretty comfortable being a misfit. I'm kind of a contrarian to begin with,
Mhm.
and I don't mind going against the grain. And I also have, I like to think I have anyway, a pretty strong BS detector, which is,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, this is crazy, and you know what, we are a solely owned law firm. I mean, I own the company. I am very clear. I own it. I will run it better than a fraternity, which is what most law firms are. They're a fraternity where everybody's arguing over who gets the crown molding and who gets the granite countertops.
Wow. Yeah.
And I've been in those before, and I hated it because I
Yeah.
can't stand, you know, the stupid business decisions that those companies make. And, you know, we make mistakes every now and again. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we dial in forward-looking budgets on basically a 1.5% tolerance every year on revenue and on expenses. And, you know, that gives you a certain level of confidence that you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that though. I love that concept, selling oranges when everyone's selling lemons, and it's coming down to making the team, the attorneys, not making, but allowing them to have be happy and not this pounding the pavement thing, and that's going to be passed on to the clients. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
well, and it's Richard Branson. You know, if you take care of your employees, your team, they'll take care of your customers.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Um, and I know you also mentioned risk avoidance is one of your guys' strengths.
Yeah, yeah. It is, and it's something we teach. Look, when all hell breaks loose, who do they call? They call us, right? You call your lawyer. You know, that's
Right.
why
Right.
there's that phrase, better call Saul. You know, oh hell,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's the deal. And you know, I hate seeing our clients in trouble. Because, you know, frankly, they're not as much fun to work with if you want to just get right down to it. You
Right.
know, I love seeing these clients where we're working with opportunities, and you know, it's inspiring, it's fun, to go do cool things and help them build stuff. I mean, you know, we just had one of our clients where they identified a huge lithium deposit, and we went out and helped them put that deal together. And you know, and, man, we were quick. We were surgical. We stayed out of, you know, we helped them stay out of trouble. Sold it off to Exxon for what, $100+ million. You know, a good day at the races, and 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 that's fun. Okay, so and you know, my first book, which I need to get around to getting my second book published. The first book is called The Art of Preventing Stupid. Okay. And it's about how to think about your vulnerabilities. Okay.
Mm.
The that's the thing I think businesses really miss out on is knowing how to brainstorm, how to have an organized way to think about and brainstorm out, build a list of what your vulnerabilities are. And you know, this is my canned line. If you will deal with your vulnerabilities, you can capitalize on your opportunities.
Mm.
I'm not just some crazy okie talking in space on that. You know, I'm going to cite Jim Collins,
Oh
who
yeah.
talks about 10x business leaders are the ones that know how to practice productive paranoia.
Mm.
And that's straight out of not good to
Good to
great, but
great.
great by choice,
Oh,
great by choice, which
great
is
by
every
choice.
bit as good as good to great.
Right.
You
Yes.
know, in a lot of ways more practical. Um, so you know, that's something we teach, And I think we teach pretty well. And frankly, we do it pretty well. And it's one of the foundations of why we've grown so fast. One of our business coaches is like, you guys, you don't make a lot of unforced errors.
You don't make a lot of unforced errors.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we make some, but we don't screw up too often.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's a good batting average.
Yeah.
So you also talked about no team has ever won the game with just an offense only strategy.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why you have to go, okay, what could possibly go wrong? But you
That's
need to
kind of,
get
so it's that same concept, looking
it's
at where could somebody punch a hole in our ship and making sure that they can't get to that hole.
yeah,
As opposed,
and we've got some really good tools on our website, in our which is davisbusinesslaw.com, over in the resources tab.
yeah,
And we've got the business immune system report and the closely related strong protected business report. Those are just structures for you to ask questions about what can possibly go wrong. And the difference between those is one of them's looking at your business systems, one of them's looking more inward, from like things like your competition and your market and our friends at the government, like what could the
yeah,
government possibly do? That's the
right,
strong
right,
protected business report. But the common thread is thinking about, number one, what are the catastrophes that could strike us? You could call that disasters or sucker punches, whatever you want. Pick your
yeah,
synonym. Number two, this one's hard, is thinking about what you don't know that you need to know. We call that ignorance. I mean, it's hard.
the
Okay.
Janari window, sure.
I mean,
What would
it's,
you
yeah.
what would you say, Matt, are some of the top vulnerabilities that a business needs to make sure they take a look at? Maybe that's a pretty loaded question, an unfair question, but is there like an 80-20 of things that just like, hey, make sure you have this covered?
Um, I'll tell you what, we, yeah, that's a loaded question.
Okay, I figured.
No, that's okay. Let me tell you, I've thought about that. Go look at we've got, sorry, I have been out on the road all week long, so
You're good. I know it's
um,
Friday afternoon. It's already
it's
beer 30 over here. So
it's fine. Now go look at it's the strong protected business. Oh, good gracious. We did a chart that we went and we took, I got all my attorneys, so, hundreds of years of legal experience. And
yeah,
we made a list of the things that get people in trouble, right?
yeah,
Okay. And then what we did is we sorted it out and said, when you've got 1 to 5 employees, worry about these things. Okay. When you got 10 to 15 employees, guess what? Those companies have different problems, right?
absolutely.
The size of your company determines the answer to that question a lot. It's called the Strong Protected Business Checklist, is what that's called.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Love
And
it.
it's a great tool to go look. Hey, for instance, when you've got 1 to 5 employees, don't worry about your succession planning and who's going to take over the company, because guess what? You don't really have anything if you want to get right down to it.
Mhm.
I've got 30 employees. I've got to worry about who takes over the company. So my wife and kids are taken care of if I die in a car wreck or something,
Right.
right? That's a different concern. And I've got different concerns with HR and so on. So yeah, that checklist is a really well thought out list.
Okay, very cool. And that's on your website?
Yeah,
What's
absolutely free.
for those listening who maybe don't have access, what is your website, if you could spell it out?
davisbusinesslaw.com.
Easy enough. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You also mentioned one of the keys to your success was this your word problem.
Oh yeah. And I got it right on the top of my whiteboard right here. I look at
Uh-huh.
it every day. And I always teach people, we all hated word problems in school, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jim has to get to New York City and he's in.
Yeah, just give it to us in the equation. It's
Yeah,
much
it's
easier,
like,
right? Yeah.
but guess what? Life is a word problem. The reason they made us do that It's because life is a word problem, right? Okay, I'm looking at the screen going, okay, look, man, I need to lose another 20 pounds. And I'm going, okay, well, what's the word problem? What makes that happen? And our company's word problem is, and I some of it's going to be quantitative, some of it's qualitative, is hire A players. Well, I have a checklist over here of what A player attorneys look like in our world. Okay,
Mhm.
check. That's part of our word problem. And then I know how many leads I have to get them in a new market or in an established market because I've got a decline curve sitting up here on my wall, um, of how many leads I have to get attorneys. Because what happens is once they start working with us, they build relationships, they need fewer leads. So, I'm not telling you it's going to be easy, but, uh, that's number two. I got to have close rates. I got to have utilization rates, which making sure they're working and productive. I got to have what's this one next? Oh, collections rates. And so, you have to sit down and figure out what are the factors that drive success in your business
Mm.
and make it a word problem. And at the end of my string of word problem up here, it says, equals success. So it's A players plus, get them leads, so on. And Jim Collins, going back to that, he calls
Yeah.
it your smack recipe.
Mm.
I don't remember which book that came out of.
Yeah.
We we have a slightly different version of it in what our smack recipe.
Right. Right.
Frankly, a little bit more detailed, but um, you know, I'm not
Love
talking
love
out
it.
of school.
Yeah. No. KPIs. So finding your critical KPIs for your company and incorporating them, making sure everybody sees them, staying on top of them, and having accountability around those.
Yeah, and I would think
Summary. Yeah.
KPIs would be a large part of it. So, for instance, our close rates and our realization rates, which are productivity. That's what our billing program calls it. And so, yeah, those would definitely be KPIs. You're going to have more qualitative thing in who you select as team members. But yeah, yes, generally we can go with that. Certainly a
Yeah.
component.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And one of the last things we kind of talked about was you actually had an associate that was not meeting her productivity. And this is the question I ask you: what's your biggest failure to learn from as CEO? You had an associate that was not meeting your productivity expectations, and you started digging in and found some interesting things.
That's always the case, isn't it?
It is.
When you have somebody that's not great, and then that's what you find out. I mean, those sort of layers of dishonesty are pretty indicative. People who what's the Bible verse? Those who are unfaithful in small things will be unfaithful in
Faithful.
great things.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's
wow.
yeah. That one was moonlighting a lot on us, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and it was bad, and frankly, was committing some malpractice while she was moonlighting, and so that's when you get to the other adage: hire slow, fire fast, right?
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. Uh, so one of the questions I always ask is if you were going to hire a CEO to take the reins for the company, for your firm, excuse me, what's the one book you would require that they read before taking over?
I just read Mike Michalowicz's new book, "Fix This Next." Have you seen that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. It's an amazing book.
Yeah, and I've been a Michalowicz fan and an
Uh-huh.
acquaintance
Yep.
for years.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Profit
and
first, toilet paper. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that's so powerful about that is it is what it helps you do is set the priorities of what you have to fix next, right? And I think that's really powerful for a CEO to understand.
Mm.
And we lived a little bit of it this year. We had a marketing failure, which caused me to have a little bit of a mental breakdown and go fire a couple marketing companies.
Mm.
But that the reason is, and why it was so important, and why it's relevant to um, Michalowicz's book is, that's like, okay, that's the bottom of your pyramid. That's the bottom of your foundation that you have to have. You have to have the new business coming in,
Right.
or
Nothing else
whether
runs.
it's new
Exactly.
or repeat. And we're a growth company, so we rely on new. We do very well with repeat business, but you know, yeah, I think that's a fantastic book for people to get, because look, there's all sorts of strategy books out there.
Mhm.
And there's how many, I can't even remember the number. There are dozens of books published about
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know anything about them. I don't read at all.
Yeah, and and I mean, I'm sick of leadership books. No offense to the
Yeah.
Navy SEALs, but if I hear
Right.
another, I hope you're not a Navy SEAL.
I was not a SEAL.
Okay, what were you? Were you in the military?
Yeah, I was an officer in the Navy, but I was a naval nuclear officer. So I
Okay, well,
ran.
and thank you for your
You're welcome.
service. By
You're
the way,
welcome.
my COO is a retired colonel, retired JAG colonel.
Oh, wow. Very
So,
good.
and yeah, by the way, those guys are great for that, and for helping run law firms. And people don't think about it. All my friends who run law firms are jealous. And but leadership books, great, great, great. But understanding your business priorities, because you can lead all the way, but if you're leading in the wrong direction, great, you can go steer into that iceberg, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, great point. Um, Matt, let me take a few minutes and summarize some of my key takeaways from our time together today. One is understanding your culture, really, and how that makes you different than your competition. And in your case, I love how you said we're selling oranges when everybody else is selling lemons, and everybody else is just trying to all about the billable hour, the billable hour, the billable hour, and you are about lifestyle, happiness first. Make sure your employees are taken care of, and then they will take care of your clients, and with a smile. And I love that approach. The other is risk avoidance. Um, it's one thing to be just all offensive, but also the side of it, like you said, that Jim Collins said, is if you deal with your vulnerabilities, you can then really deal with your opportunities. So you have to have an organized way to build a list of your vulnerabilities and kind of work through them. And the other was this concept of the word problem that you talk about. It's really paying attention. One part of it's your KPIs, but really having that culture in action taken around those. Let me ask Matt, if there was one takeaway that you'd really want the audience to absorb from our time together today, what would that be?
Yeah, seriously, guys. And the reason I say this is because I don't think it gets taught enough. And I just was reading another great book called The Road Less Stupid.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic book. I love the
yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know, it's look at our stuff, look at our, you know, Cunningham he talks about the same concept. Um, but I think we are the best in the world at teaching people, and this is something sometimes we charge for, sometimes we don't. But the thing I understand is how to ask the questions to keep yourself out of trouble. And look at our stuff. It's really useful because the people that learn how to brainstorm and think and dig deep, and those two tools, the strong protected business report and the business immune system report, I teach about the second one in my book. um, Man, you learn how to do that. You learn how to look forward. You learn how to self-assess, brainstorm. It makes you so much more powerful, so much more effective as a leader and as a team, because
Mm,
you're there to deal, then they're dealt with. You're not going to get sucker punched.
I love it. That's a great point. Hey, Matt, I know we said your website already, but if any of our listeners want to reach out and either utilize your firm for services or have any questions from our conversation today, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, the my email, just email me direct. It's M Davis, just my first initial at davisbusinesslaw.com. And I'm one of those weirdos that has a clean email box.
Zero inbox. All
I
right.
got like 5 emails in there any given day. I can't stand it. I have
Yeah.
obsessive compulsive tendencies. So
Fair enough. Awesome. Thanks for that. And Matt, thanks for being on the show. This was fantastic. So much great information in here for our upcoming leaders.
my pleasure, and thank you. I loved being here. And sorry I look like a hobo today.
No, you're good, man. You look great. Um, And for the listeners, please hit the like and subscribe button and help us spread the word about the show and what we're doing here. We're helping the next generation of CEOs and leaders be that much more successful. With that, this is your host, Patrick Rogers, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks a lot.